today we're going to learn a new concept called mean absolute deviation. So on your warm-up today, what were you guys calculating? But what were you calculating? The mean. Okay, you're calculating the mean, which you guys did that yesterday on your assignment. So when you calculate mean, what do you have to do? Exactly, add them all up, divide by how many there are. So when you added them all up, what'd you get? When you added them up? 84. And then you divided by how many numbers?
8.
What's 84 divided by 8? 10.5. Now does everybody see this symbol right here that I just drew?
Yes.
That is how statistics writes mean. Okay, so when we start doing some stuff in the calculator later, there'll be a symbol that looks like this, and that symbol is the symbol notation for mean. Okay, so from here on out, when you guys are solving for the mean, I want you to notate it by drawing that symbol. Okay. All right, so this is going to go along with what we're learning today. Which, when you guys go home today and your parents or whoever says, "How was your day? Did you learn anything new today?" You can say, "Yes, I learned how to calculate the mean absolute deviation of a data set." You can sound really smart. Okay, that's what you guys are going to do today. It sounds big. It sounds like you're going to have to do a ton of work. But I've broken it down into 3 simple steps. Okay, and first thing is, what is the mean absolute deviation? Well, aka MAD. Let's break it down. We got the word mean. So obviously, what do you think you're going to have to be calculating? The mean. Okay, let's look at the A for absolute. Do you guys know what absolute value is? What's the absolute value of negative 2? 2. What's the absolute value of negative 5? 5. What's the absolute value of 3? 3. So basically, we're taking the absolute distance, because when we're talking about distance from something, can you have negative distance? Like, can you go run a negative 2 miles? No. Can you travel negative 300 miles? No. So it doesn't matter in which direction, okay? It's going to be positive values. So that's where the absolute comes from. And the deviation is talking about variation. Okay, so there's 3 parts. Now MAD, mean absolute deviation, is the average distance each data point is from the mean. This definition is very important. Okay, you do need to know the definition of MAD. Okay, you need to know the vocabulary term. So we're taking average distance data is from the mean. Okay, it measures spread. Now, what do you guys think I mean by spread? No, I'm not talking about mayonnaise or mustard. Okay, what do you think it means by spread? Distance, yes. Okay, and what do you mean by distance, though?
Like how spread out something is.
Yes, exactly, perfect. How spread out something is. So this measures, you're like, why would we ever need to even calculate MAD? Why do we even need it? Because it tells us, again, how spread out our data is. It gives us an exact number. Now, the thing is, y'all are pretty smart. Y'all could look at a data set and be like, oh, those numbers aren't very spread out. They're all kind of the same. Yes, that is the common sense looking at data. But this number, when we calculate MAD, gives us an exact number in terms of how spread out our data is of the mean. Okay? Now, we worked on mean, median, mode, and range yesterday. What was another of those 4? Which one also kind of measured spread? You calculate it. We're going to calculate it differently, but which other one? Range, exactly. The range, from the greatest value to the smallest value, that was a range. So that's another measure of spread. Okay? So let's talk and break it down step by step. Okay, again, MAD is a measure of how spread out the data is from the mean. We call it a measure of variation since it tells us how does our data vary. Now, how many acronyms are there to MAD? 3, right? M-A-D. So guess how many steps there are going to be? 3. So that's one way to help you remember. Step 1 is going to be to find the mean. You guys are pretty much professionals at that. I just graded your homework. You guys know how to calculate mean. That's step 1. But that's not all. It doesn't say find the mean, it says find the MAD. So M, that's step 1. Step 2 is we're going to find each absolute distance from the mean. Meaning we're going to take all those data points that we have and say, okay, how many units, like is 2 from the mean? Okay, we're going to do that with every single number, and I'll show you that here in a second. Okay, so once we get those distances, and remember, distances are always positive. That's the absolute, okay? We're going to do step 3. We're going to average those distances. So you're going to have to be performing 2 averages. The average of the original numbers, and then the average of the distances. Okay? So these are the 3 steps. So let's go ahead and kind of jump into this data set here. So we're given 8 data. Again, this data was provided of tickets purchased. Okay? And we're going to calculate the mean absolute deviation. So step 1, just find the mean. You guys know how to do that. Go ahead and calculate the mean. Add them all up, divide by how many there are. You guys go ahead and do that. Okay, so when y'all added those numbers up, you got a total of 40, right? And then we divided it by how many numbers?
8.
Which 40 divided by 8 is 5. So 5 equals our mean. Notice how I used that new symbol. Check to see if you guys use that or not. I want you to notate that using that symbol. Okay, here's step 2, and it's the most tedious part. It's not hard, but it's the most tedious part. We need to find each absolute distance, remember distance is always positive, from the mean. So, let's take each of these, and I'm just going to write the distance to the side of it. That way I know I get all of them. So, how far away is 3 from our mean of 5? How many units? 2. How far away is 4 from 5? 1 unit. How far away is 9 from 5? 4 units. 8 from 5? 3. Okay, now, a lot of you guys, I just do and count, distance-wise. But let's say some people may not be as, arithmetic savvy as others. What operation are we doing here when finding distance? What operation is that? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Subtract. So if you struggle with, kind of doing those in your head, just take the mean, 5, and subtract those values. 5 minus 2 is 3, and that's 3 units away. Okay? Now, even if you do, some people, this is where they struggle. They're like, oh, I'm subtracting everything. I'm going to do 5 minus 6. What's 5 minus 6? A negative 1. But remember, we are talking about absolute distances. So when you write this number, we're not going to write negative 1 next to the 6. We're going to do the absolute distance of 1. Okay, then how far away is 3 from 5? 2. 5 from 5? 0. So now we have all of our distance. Each data point is from the mean. So in step 3, we're going to take those distances, 2, 1, 4, 3, 3, 1, 2, and 0. And guess what we're going to do with those numbers?
Add them all up, divided by 8.
Exactly. Find the average of those new numbers. Add them all up, divide by how many there are. So 2 plus 1 plus 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 0 is 16. And then divided by how many numbers do we have? 8. 16 divided by 8 is 2. So 2 equals our MAD. And make sure you note that as well. Because on some of these assignments, I see people write 5 and 2, and they circle 5 and 2. And I'm like, well, which one's 5, which one's 2? Okay, so make sure that you guys are, telling me what is what. What do they represent? Now, what does the 2 tell us? Is our data very spread out? No, because it's 2. 2 basically tells us, oh, it's give or take 2 units to the left or to the right of our average. So it's not very spread out because that's a low number. If this number was, 60 or 30 or somewhere, in that range, then yeah, it'd be a little bit more spread out. But it's not. Okay. Everybody doing okay so far? Not too bad? Not too bad. Okay, let's try the next one. And this is how it's usually going to be. You're just going to be given a set of numbers. Usually, you're given about 5 numbers, 5 to 6 numbers or so. So usually it's not anything too crazy. But we're going to go ahead and find the MAD of these numbers. So step 1 is to calculate the mean. So let's calculate the mean. Okay, when you add them all up, that totals to be 50 divided by how many numbers?
5.
50 divided by 5 is 10. So 10 equals our mean. Okay, so step 1. Step 1's the easy step. Mostly everybody gets step 1. And when you guys are showing your work, this is what I mean by showing your work. Okay, go ahead and give me that top number over your bottom number. Okay, that way I know, okay, they know how to calculate mean. They calculated it correctly. Okay, so you don't actually have to write 2 plus 12 plus all that. At least just give me the total and divide by how many numbers there are. Step 2, we're going to find the distances. I like to write my distances above my numbers up here. So again, we make sure that we hit every single one of them. So again, ask yourself, how far away is 2 from our mean of 10? How far away is 2 from 10? 8 units. How far away is 12 from 10? 2 units. 6 from 10? 4. 9 from 10? And 21 from 10? 11. So there are our distances. And again, they're absolute values. So we've already done step 1 and step 2. Now let's move on to step 3, which is to, yes, average your distances. So add 8 plus 2, that's 10, 14, 15, 26. That totals to be 26.
Yeah.
Divided by 5. 26 divided by 5 is 5.2. So 5.2 equals our MAD. So again, ask yourself, well, is our data very spread out? It's a little bit, it's more spread out than our last data set we had, but it's still not too crazy. It's about 5 units, give or take, from each data point. Okay, so again, this is the work I want to see. I want to see your mean, how you calculated the mean. Okay, I want to see your distances. And then I also want to see how you calculated the average of your distances. Do what? Yep, we're going to look at the next one. Okay, so here's a new data set, still working with 5 numbers. Let's go ahead and first calculate your mean. Calculate your mean. So 5 plus 7 plus 10 plus 2 plus 8, that's 32, divided by
5
equals,
6.6.
okay. Now what do y'all notice about our mean? Yes, it is a decimal. So it's not a pretty whole number. So here's where you might have to do that arithmetic in finding your distances by using your calculator. Because some of you guys struggle a little bit throwing in those decimals, which is okay, but that's why we have those calculators available. We subtract. Subtract and take the absolute value. So when we do this one, how far away is 5 from 6.4? 6.4 minus 5 is 1.4. So that's going to be this distance here, 1.4. So then the next one, again, so I don't have to deal with the negatives, I'm just going to take the larger number and subtract the smaller number. I'm going to do 7 minus 6.4, which is 0.6. 7 minus 6.4, okay, is 0.6. So here, again, here is where the decimals can kind of get you a little bit. It can kind of trade tricks on your mind if you're trying to do it in your head, okay? And then how far away is 10 from 6.4? Do 10 minus 6.4? 3.6. And then how far away is 2 from 6.4? 4.4. And again, just subtract. Subtract and take the absolute value. And then 8 minus 6.4 is 1.6. So that's the hardest part whenever you do get those decimals. But again, you have that calculator option where you guys can just subtract. So now we're on to step 3. Add up all your distances. 1.4 plus 0.6 plus 3.6.
11.6.
Until you get a total of 11.6. Divided by your numbers, you have 5. Remember, you should always be dividing by the same number, okay? Because it's not like we're going to lose any of these values. Even if they're 0, we're still not going to lose them. 11.6 divided by 5 is 2.32, and that equals our MAD. Okay. All right, what I'm going to have you guys do is go ahead and complete the independent practice. Make sure you guys show your work. You do your correct notation with the mean and the MAD. Raise your hand once you guys have your answers. I'll come check it just to make sure we're all on the same page. And then I'll give you guys your 2.2 homework. Okay. If you can finish it in class, awesome. I mean, you'll have about 20 minutes. Some of second period weren't able to finish it all, but if you don't happen to finish, yes, it is homework.